Good morning, everyone. My name is Brad Walsh, host of the Empowerography Podcast based here in Toronto. My guest today is Melissa White. She is a certified personal trainer and postnatal fitness coach. Good morning, Melissa. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. So good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. How was your weekend?
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a weird time right now, but I think just trying to make the most of it and being home with my daughter is something I didn't really get a lot of time doing before. So, yeah, I'm just trying to embrace it.
That's an added bonus for sure.
Yeah.
So how has this affected your business? I mean, you being a personal trainer and postnatal fitness coach, have you moved things to online, or is it kind of stopped dead in its tracks because of what's going on right now?
Yeah, it's been interesting, an interesting challenge. I did already have a lot of online clients, so that wasn't something that was really new for me.
Okay.
But with my clients and my classes that I had in person all the time, I have had to transition that to online. So just trying to stay in contact with clients that I would be seeing, 3 to 4 times a week. So mostly sending out daily workouts, just trying to, keep everybody as motivated as I can. And then for my online clients, I've mostly transitioned their programming to at-home programs.
Okay.
But yeah, it's hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be, to be honest.
Now, how have your clients that you would normally see in person, how have they been handling the transition? Have they been okay with it and adapting fairly easily?
For the most part, I'm pretty amazed by everybody. Because I think when people work with a trainer, it's easy to almost feel dependent on the trainer.
Right.
And my goal for every client that I work with is for them to gain enough confidence that they can leave me. As much as I would want to keep everyone, I want them to be able to, go out on their own and feel like they can establish a workout routine on their own. They can create their own programming. They can feel motivated without me having to, bark in their ear all the time.
Right.
So I think it's actually been really empowering from my clients to be like, wow, maybe I can do this, and maybe I do know more than I think I do, because it's easy when I'm telling you to do it. You're just doing it without thinking of why you're doing it or what you're doing. So yeah, a lot of the feedback that I've been kind of getting from everyone is, I send a daily workout and they're like, holy crap, I know what all these exercises are, and I didn't think that I would, or whatever it is.
Awesome. That's great. You don't have to handhold all the way through, which is good for you too, because then you can, of course, I guess, branch out and get more clients once you've kind of led them down that path and kind of cut the apron strings, so to speak. They can sort of take on their own role and you can bring in more new clients, right?
Oh yeah. One of my favorite things is when my clients begin teaching, maybe other family members, or teaching their husbands or wives, and they become coaching, because that's how you learn. And a lot of them have been doing that as well. So that's been pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty rewarding to be able to get them to that point where they can actually teach other people.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing this?
Full-time training. I've been doing it since I had my daughter. So 2.5 years now. So that's when I kind of decided to jump all in and actually, throw everything into fitness. Before that, when I was pregnant, it was sort of, something that I did on the side. When I initially started working for myself, my background's in recreation therapy. So I'm basically combining recreation and fitness with people who had special needs. Yeah. And that's sort of when I got a first taste of what it would be like to work for myself, which I obviously fell in love with. Yeah. And yeah, before that, I taught phys ed overseas in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, okay.
And I worked in a phys ed classroom here as well, where I was a personal trainer and phys ed teacher for people with special needs. So kind of a lot of coaching and teaching in my background. But definitely fitness has sort of always been the theme.
Very cool. How did the whole gig in Abu Dhabi happen? How did that come about?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing, actually. My cousin, she's a teacher, and she had been teaching over in England. And she had been living in Abu Dhabi, I believe, for a year already teaching.
Okay.
And I had just finished my schooling, and I was kind of in a spot in my life where, you know, you have those questions of what are my next steps? What am I going to do? I forget. Oh, I was working, I think, at the beer store. That was my college job.
That's an all right college gig.
Yeah. And I don't know. I was just kind of, you know, looking for answers. And when I woke up to a message from her, I think she messaged me at 3 a.m. because of the time change.
Yeah.
And she said, hey, send me all of your qualifications and your schooling. We need a phys ed teacher like ASAP.
Wow.
What? What are you talking about? So, you know, I sent her my background, so therapeutic recreation and then also early childhood education. Mm-hmm. And over there, you know, things are a little bit different. So when I sent my resume and all my info, I think they took, you know, the education portion of early childhood education and the recreation portion of what I did. And they're like, great, that basically means phys ed. Yeah, she's qualified.
All right.
And so how it kind of worked over there was basically the schools over there are privately owned and they were under an inspection. And I guess the phys ed teacher had left early for her mat leave. Mm-hmm. And the principal was teaching phys ed because they didn't have somebody else to teach. And then when they realized they were under inspection, they're like, okay, we need somebody here.
Yeah.
So I was in contact with the principal. I believe it was like, I want to say a Monday that I received the message from the principal. On Wednesday, I woke up to an email saying, okay, here's your flight info. We're going to hire you. The flight's on Saturday and you're going to start work on Monday.
Wow.
So basically had to, quit my job, pack up my whole life. And you're talking to like small town girl from Orillia that I had only been on an airplane once before. Yeah. Never alone. So I guess on the Friday, hopped on a plane. Thankfully met some pretty amazing people on the plane that helped me over there. English. When I got off the plane, there was this guy standing there who didn't speak English with a big sign with my name on it. Yeah. Okay, I guess I'm going with this guy. Basically landed, traveled to my hotel, met my cousin, started work the next day. It was probably the most craziest thing I've ever done in my life. But
that's quite the whirlwind experience for sure.
Yeah, wouldn't trade it for the world.
And how long were you in Abu Dhabi for?
I was only 5 months as I was on mat leave. Mm-hmm. And it was sort of one of those things where, you know, it was a round trip, so I knew what day my flight home was.
Yeah.
So I think because I hadn't really traveled a whole lot, I kind of, you know, I felt okay to be doing that because I'm like, well, at some point I know that I'm going home and I'm going to make the most of the time that I have here.
Yeah.
But when I came close to that date, I definitely was wanting to stay.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing having to, when you come from a small town, and I think, you know, everyone knows you and there's sort of all these expectations of you and the person that you are. And when you move to a completely different country and nobody knows you and you almost get to reinvent yourself a little bit and say, okay, well, you know, I'm going to see what I can bring to the table. And I think I surprised myself a little bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Pushed you right outside your comfort zone very quickly and you have to adapt and that's it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was amazing.
I'm sure. What a life experience.
Yeah.
Very cool. So it would seem that your journey started out with personal struggles of your own, centered around eating disorders and postpartum depression. Your journey into the whole fitness world and helping others with this kind of thing. Is it safe to say that your personal struggles were your inspiration or driving force for turning your success turning your success of overcoming these things into the business that you develop now, that you currently run?
Oh yeah. It was, I'm really like firm believer in that, you know, life kind of throws things at you so that you can use them. Right. You can use those lessons to help others and to sort of coach. And, you know, even at the time when things seem really, really hard, eventually you end up using those tools and the lessons that you've learned from that. So I think earlier on, you know, maybe even before I moved overseas, if I tried to do what I was doing now, I wouldn't be as successful.
Right.
Because in a place where I was really living, in alignment with who I was. I didn't have that confidence. I wasn't really speaking my truth in the way that I should have been.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously really difficult to build confidence in other people when you don't have it yourself.
Absolutely.
So I think, that's something that I can bring to the table because I know what it's like to sort of be on the other side.
Yeah.
And, sharing my story, it is empowering because people can look to me and say, well, she hasn't always been here. And it's amazing that, she can be in a place where, she can feel this way about herself, and maybe one day I can too. Awesome.
So how do you help these women cope with the similar battles like you went through? Is it through physical activity? Is it through coaching? Is it a combination? How do you help them?
Yeah, it's so many things. The thing I love about when I'm in training is that it's so individual, and the relationship that you can build with clients on a professional level is still so intimate when you're dealing with somebody who's coming to you at like the most vulnerable point in their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like working with women, I do coach men as well,
Okay.
but majority women.
Yeah.
It's one of the most empowering things in the world because I really do believe that women should be, we're meant to bring each other up, and we're meant to, support each other. And in my classes, and I teach postpartum strength training classes and a postpartum stroller fit class, women are just so like loving of each other.
Mm-hmm.
When I try to make them, give that same love to themselves, that's like a whole different ball game, right?
Right.
So it's funny if I'm training somebody and somebody else walks in and they're like, man, like, you're so strong and you look fabulous today and I love your hair. And, they're just throwing compliments at each other. And then I put a mirror in front of them and I'm like, can you say that to yourself? They're like, oh, I can't even look at myself. I can't even, and so it's definitely the physical aspects of the coaching that I'm doing. It transfers over, but the actual coaching around mindset is the most important thing that I do.
So then it's safe to say fitness and physical activity play a huge role in helping women with these struggles that they're going through.
Yeah. And one of the sort of things that I felt, from a physical point of view is when I was pregnant,
mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe the lack of information that I was getting around safely weight training,
right,
and how to safely recover. So not even about even going into the emotional sort of aspects of it, but physically I was like, searching for answers and reaching out to professionals that I was working with and wanting to make sure, because I was so into fitness and, that I wasn't going to do anything harmful to my body or whatever. I couldn't believe the lack of information that there was. And then especially with regards to healing and postpartum, there was nothing. And I think it's because it's a relatively new thing, and an movement that we're sort of moving in towards. So I sort of, reaching, I don't know if it's because I'm in a small town or what, but I sort of decided that I wanted to be that person for other women. So I wanted to have all of that knowledge, and I wanted to be that coach from a physical point of view to say, in postpartum, these are the things that you need to be doing to safely heal.
Right.
Not even if you're, into strength training or fitness, but just as a person so that you can function in your daily life.
So the lack of information that you found when you were pregnant was a huge part of why you decided to do what you do as well, correct?
Oh, yeah. And even as a personal trainer, the course that I took to be certified in personal training, touching on pregnant and postpartum, there was maybe half a chapter of reading of, how to coach women and and I just was so mind blown because I'm like, any certified personal trainer is going to be training women who may be pregnant or have been pregnant or are currently pregnant. And it should be a requirement that any personal trainer has to take a postpartum course because there's so much that you don't understand and that you can't understand unless you have that coaching.
Right.
You've been pregnant yourself, physical and mental aspects and struggles that these women go through. So it was definitely a catalyst for me because I was kind of floored.
So where did you end up finding your information then? If the information was far and few between, how did you gain the knowledge? Where did it come from?
So my postnatal certification is through Jessie Mendel.
Okay.
Anyone who's listening who wants any coaching through their pregnancy or postpartum, I would highly recommend her. All of her coaching is so in line with what I really believe and want for my clients. Just around body image and being real with the things that people struggle with in their pregnancy and postpartum, and, the loss of control that people have over their bodies, the fears and the anxiety around it. So, she's pretty amazing with her knowledge, around the physical body and the women's body and all of that. But the fact that she touches on all of those other things that are so important, I just loved.
Awesome. So, of course, all of it ties into self-love and body positivity and body acceptance. You're a huge advocate then of all of those things and helping women deal with these issues? Is that a big part of what you do as well? Oh,
absolutely. Like I try to celebrate as many small wins as I can in the people that I work with. So it isn't always the big things, and it isn't always necessarily, about, I want my coaching to be different because I don't talk about weight loss.
Right.
It's not even a conversation that I like to have with clients. It's not something that I bring up. If conversations in classes are happening around that, I wouldn't say that I try to actively steer the conversation away, but I wouldn't say that I really give a lot of my thoughts towards it.
Okay.
Because I think when people automatically think fitness, they associate it with weight loss, and it's so much more than that. And I just think of, my own journey and things that I've struggled with, and I see transformations that have happened in clients. And, I've worked with clients for 2 years whose bodies may not actually have changed a whole lot. Or maybe the scale has increased. Maybe their pant size has increased. And when you look at the transformation that's happened in their mindset, or you look at progress photos that they're sending me in their first photo, they're not standing up straight. They're barely able to look at themselves. They're hiding themselves. They're obviously, embarrassed of where they're at.
Yeah.
And even if their body isn't changing, 6 months later, you can see the mindset change because they're posing, they're standing up, smiling. They're whatever it is. They're
proud of what they've accomplished.
Oh yeah, they're
see it in the photos, right?
Oh yeah, and it's celebrating all those small things. Even in this with this COVID stuff happening, I started a sports bra workout movement with all my mamas at home.
Oh,
and it's amazing. And the first couple workouts, I'm like, this is a sports bra workout. You can participate or you can't, but whatever you want to do. And they all send me these sweaty selfies after their workouts, and all of them are like, I can, never in a million years would I think that I could work out in a sports bra, but I'm doing it.
That's awesome.
That's where it starts. They're in the comfort of their own home, and they're feeling like, I can do this. And it speaks volumes. It's not about the fact that they're in a sports bra. It's the fact that they feel comfortable and be able to look at their body during those movements and feel okay with it.
Did the idea or inspiration for that sports bra workout come from this whole COVID thing? Is that where that originated? Because we're at home? And
I sort of had the thought. I was thinking of, as I said sort of earlier on in this, and people, learning to feel confident in building their own programs and motivating themselves. And I think about myself when I work out at home, and, I'm always like in minimal clothing. I want to be able to see what's happening. I want to see how the muscles are activating. And it's for myself when I'm looking, like that's sort of what I'm looking for. But I know initially years ago, that's something that I never thought that I would be able to do.
Right.
Or even, being in a gym environment and working out with my belly showing wasn't something I ever thought I'd be able to do. Yeah. And I know confidence that comes from that. And so if I can push that on other people and say, it's not about the sports bra, but the fact that you're doing it is pretty amazing.
I'm sure. So you and I both know the media plays a huge part in body image and how women are portrayed, and that there's a certain way women should look. and feel. And I think the media has been instrumental in decimating the way women look at themselves and see themselves. Do you think the media has also done damage to the body positivity and self-love movement in terms of like hyping it up so much that it almost takes the meaning away from it and sensationalizes it now, where it's cool to be part of this body positivity, self-love thing?
Yeah, that's it's a really complex topic for sure. I do think that it's a really beautiful thing, the way that the conversation is going around self-development and working on ourselves and working towards ourselves. I do think that that's a really positive thing. But when I think of social media and I think of Instagram and Facebook and all these sort of platforms that people are using, the message that I sort of get from that is that somehow we have to reach full self-actualization before we're lovable. And I just don't agree with that. And I think that that's sort of the message that people are getting, is that, you know, love yourself, and then maybe somebody else could love you, or love yourself first, and then you can take care of all these other people, especially for moms in postpartum, you know, do workouts so that you can care for your family. And I just think, you know, like, no, do this workout so that, you know, you're giving yourself time to feel the most you that you can feel, and to, like, you're bettering yourself. And it doesn't have to do with, you know, if you have to do that in order to be lovable, I guess.
Okay. Now, on the other side of that coin, we as people, do you think that we've done damage to the movement and the true meaning of what it's all about because we've overused the term body positivity or self-love or women's empowerment? Do you think we've watered it down by the frequency that we hear that term and the way it's thrown around so easily?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, with social media, sort of, I think everything the true meaning can get lost so easily. And when I think of that, I think of, you know, the idea of self-love, and I think we as people, we want to take that self-love and think, you know, I'm going to fully love myself, and that means that I never have to work towards being more. Right. I never have to aspire to be more or work, you know. I just think of, like, you know, a young high school student that's dropped out of high school. They're sitting on the couch eating Cheetos and playing a video game with a hashtag, you know, self-love, because I'm doing this for me and nothing else matters. And, you know, that's sending the wrong message, because we want, you know, there's nothing wrong with aspiring to be more. And that's actually an action of self-love, rather than just accepting where you're at and just being okay with it.
So what are your thoughts on the whole movement, if we can call it that, today, as things are today? What do you think of the whole movement?
I think, as I said, I do think that it's a beautiful thing, and I think I like that it's being talked about. With regards to, you know, women that I'm training or women in postpartum, when I think of self-love, and I think of even just learning, taking the time to educate ourselves in postpartum of how to heal properly so that we're not having issues later on, physically and mentally.
Because mental health plays a huge part in all of this too, right?
Yeah, it's so much more than just, like, I think of, like, how confusing it must be for young people growing up with Instagram, who have Instagram, or, you know, all these social media things at such a young age, and they're just kind of being, like, you know, thrown all these messages all the time about self-love and what that even means. And because the true meaning has been lost, I just think of, you know, young people not really, almost as if it's weak to be somebody who's selfless, or it's to be giving to others, or it's weak to be helping others, and you should only be for yourself. And I wouldn't even want to imagine what this world would be like if people only were living for themselves, right? Because, you know, there is a point where, you know, even in my job, like I live for helping other people achieve their best selves. And that fills my cup up because I know that I'm doing my part to help other people.
Yeah.
And that can be, you know, a selfless act, but I'm still giving myself some self-love because I'm doing what I love. And it's, you know, fulfilling for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be confusing as a young person that, you know,
bombarded with all these sound clips and memes and all this shit. Yeah, I mean, a constant barrage of that stuff every single day. So it's hard to navigate through it. I would think it's very hard to navigate through as a young person.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if it's because of the industry I work in and, you know, being in fitness, but it seems like self-love is only associated with, you know, working towards having a six-pack and, you know,
yeah,
in membership, so it's self-love. And I just think, you know, what about people that aren't necessarily into fitness?
Mm-hmm.
And love for them is art, or it's music, or it's chasing their career, or it's, you know, it is working on themselves and the self-development. And it's, you know, it doesn't have to do with physical aspects of the body.
Yeah, exactly. It's not always about that. There are many different areas of self-love. So you being a mother to a young daughter, these positive values and thoughts need to be planted early on, I would think, in a younger child, boy or girl. So what do you do to teach and enforce these things in your own home for your daughter?
I think I like to have a lot of fun with this one.
Yeah.
I think if there was cameras on the wall in my house, people would be like, wow. I think as a parent, especially, you know, to my daughter, she'll be 3 in June, so she's still pretty.
Yeah.
But you really not only have to talk the talk, but you have to walk the talk. And I think words are really great, but actions, you know, they're everything. And the way that I am, I know that she is going to learn from. So I kind of, when I think back of the way that I was sort of raised and things that I saw as a young woman, I sort of saw 2 parents that didn't really have that confidence in themselves. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that would pick themselves apart in front of the mirror, or, you know, grab at areas of their body, or they would try clothes on, and, you know, comments that negative self-talk.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, they would pump up my brothers and my sister and I verbally, and, you know, we never ever heard anything negative about our bodies, because it's what we saw. That's what you learn.
Right.
And my parents and I, we've had conversations about this now that we're all adults, and, you know, they'd say, you know, but we always said that you were so beautiful, and we always said you were all these things. Like, how is it that you had these issues? And it's sort of like, well, you know, these are the sorts of things that we saw. And then they were kind of like, oh yeah, you know, and that caused a lot of reflection from our childhood and things like that.
Leading by example, right?
Yeah. So when I think of, you know, my daughter and things that I want her to see, she's grown up in the gym with me, because I started work when she was I think I started these classes when she was 4 months old.
Oh, wow.
So she was always with me teaching these postpartum classes. She came with me to the gym. I was lucky enough that I could bring her with me. So even, you know, when she was in a car seat to now, she's always been working out with me, and it's something that she sees, and it's something that she knows is a priority in my life, and it's important to me. And I've come a long way in my own journey with regards to my self-confidence. And, you know, I do funny things with her when we're getting dressed in the morning, and we're dancing here, and you know, I scream like, I love my belly. Do you love your belly? She's like, yeah, I love my belly. Like, yeah, shake it. And we have dance parties, and, you know, she wants me to do her hair in the morning, and she looks in the mirror and she's like, beauty. Like, I'm like, yeah, you look
That's
great.
awesome.
She's like, I know I do. And, you know, it can be over the top, and I know that those are things that are going to stand out for her as she continues, you know, to grow up sort of in this scary world that terrifies.
Yeah.
I can do my part, and I can do my part in how I see myself, how I talk about myself. You know, I'm proud of accomplishments that I have, and I hang my stuff up on the wall, and I hang up her drawings and her stuff on the fridge. And, you know, we celebrate accomplishments that we have because we're proud, and we should be. yeah, it's something that I want to teach her, and that I always teach my clients is, the difference between, feeling confident in your ability and feeling conceited or being conceited.
Yeah, there's a line there, and
there's such a line.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Because kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for, and they pick up on a hell of a lot more than we give them credit for. You may think that they don't get it because it's adult terms or adult words, but if they see what's going on, they pick up on things. They're very, very smart little humans, and it's good to be so positive with our kids and show them by example. I think that's awesome what you're doing.
Thank you.
So what are some of the challenges you faced early on in your business, and how did you overcome those?
Early on, from a business perspective, I think that I was lacking confidence in that what I was doing was needed. Mm-hmm. Even though I believed in it, I think everybody, when they start, their own business and they're going out on their own and they have to provide for a family, you have those questions of, it might be easier just to work a 9-to-5 job that's, guaranteed. So I think earlier on when I started these classes, I lacked the confidence in that, what I was doing was so important. Mm-hmm. I remember the very first stroller fit class that I had, and I think I had 40 girls come out. It was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. And I was so worried that I didn't do a good job. I remember messaging so many people after the workout and checking in and, how did you like it? Was the workout okay? Like, you guys did great. And looking back, I'm like, man, I would never do that now. But I was just so I really, really hope it was good. Oh, I hope they like me. And then eventually you get to a point where it's sort of like, I'm confident in what I'm offering.
Yeah.
I don't need to ask those questions anymore.
Right.
So yeah, that was sort of business-wise, it just sort of took time.
Yeah.
But on a personal level, I think there were a lot of things earlier on in my life that kind of allowed me to get to where I am today. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And I think being sort of in this place of self-discovery and, learning things about yourself, you have to think back to things that affected you at a young age and why they happened, and how that can even be brought into your business, and different beliefs that you have and different things that you're pushing on people. And you have to really stop and think, well, where is this coming from? Why do I believe that? Why do I believe that about this? And, had to push different beliefs on people. Mm-hmm.
If you could go back, would you change anything about how you did things?
Business-wise?
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if I would change it. Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of things that happened had to happen in order for me to get to where I am today.
Yeah.
So, initially when I first started my classes, I was in this teeny tiny studio in the back of a massage therapy clinic that barely could hold 7 of us. And my first round of classes, I had 20 people sign up, and I was like, oh, well, that isn't really going to work, but I guess we'll make it work. And I had but it allowed me to be creative, and it allowed me to just sort of go with the flow, be flexible, figure things out as I went. Mm-hmm. And I think when you're someone that, which I am, wants to be perfect at everything, and I want things to be a certain way, it was really hard for me to sort of just jump in and do things because I wanted everything to be perfect before I did it. And that caused a lot of hesitation. So if I look at how much I've grown now and being out on my own and not having to, I have my own space now. I'm not sharing space with other people. And I think about all those things that I sort of went through. Really, I could have done that, a year ago or a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. But I didn't take the jump because, I wanted things to be so perfect.
Yeah.
But the thing with, life and business is that, it's never going to be.
No, exactly.
And you're always going to learn. And I think back to even my training style. for one-on-one training and how much it's changed. I found some like little old books that I used to use for training when I initially started, and flipping through my workouts, I'm like, man, I feel sorry for those people. But I know that I was doing the best that I could with what I had, and I don't know.
Well, that's it. I think it's really cool to be able to look back on stuff like that. Like, I mean, I know I've done it many times where I'll look back at my older work as a photographer, look back at images that I took 10, 15 years ago. And at the time I thought, oh man, this is so good. I love this. And I look back now and think, oh my God, how could I ever have thought this was good? This is horrible. But looking back and seeing the progression is what matters. Is as long as you can see the line of progression in your work and that you've gotten better and you've grown with it, then that's all that matters, because we all have to start somewhere. So I think it's good to be able to look back and kind of laugh at ourselves when we look back at our older work and things, and just as long as we can see a progression, then it's okay.
Absolutely. I love that. That's growth, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. What do you think is your unique skill set or superpower that's helped you become successful as a person and in your business?
Superpower. I think that I have a really good read of people's energy and, my ability to connect with people.
Yeah.
So, people are coming to me sometimes at the most, vulnerable, sort of like lowest point of their life. And they finally decided to take a step and do something for themselves, which is beautiful. And as a personal trainer, it's not just a job. It's not just for myself anyway, something that you can just do and you just sort of, you're going through the motions. People are, trusting you with that. And, I can tell when somebody walks into my studio or they walk in for a class and they are terrified. I can tell when they are like at a breaking point, or I can tell when someone is like, and I think that because I can pick up on that energy, I like to make people feel comfortable. I want them to know that they're in a safe space. I want them to know that they can be themselves, and I'm going to be as real as I can be. And I think it gives permission for other people to be real. I'm pretty open with things that I've struggled with and, things that have gone on in my life. And I don't hide that, because I want people to feel safe to say like, oh, I'm also dealing with that. And like, how do you do that? Or, how do you, to be able to ask those questions, because it's important. So much more than just training. For sure.
So what was a turning point in your life then, and how did that turning point affect you?
I think there was sort of a lot of things that have happened that really have made me be able to be who I am today and have made me successful in what I'm doing. And a lot of it stemmed from when I was really young. Well, not super young, but when I was 9, my older brother passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was a pretty traumatic time, like, for my family. And I think a lot of things that followed really, really stemmed from that. Right. And, so I was 9 years old, and I think really from that, I sort of came out of that with this sort of like fear of abandonment, and feeling that I had lost my family that I knew. Felt like I had lost my parents because they obviously weren't who they used to be. Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. The relationship with my brothers and sisters had changed. My whole life had changed. And I really, being a parent now, and I look at what my parents did and still having to be a parent after losing a child, I'm like, I kudos to them, because I don't know.
It's unimaginable, right? You don't, how do they do it? How do you continue?
I know. And like, how do you, I talk to my parents now, and they said, we didn't really have time to fall apart because we had 3 other children.
Well, exactly. That's what I was going to say is I guess in your particular situation where there are other kids, you have to function. You have to, for the sake of the other children.
Exactly. Basically from that, I think that, I wasn't getting attention in the way that I used to. And I began searching from that in other areas. And what that sort of looked like for me was finding, relationships that I shouldn't have been in.
Right.
And I do believe that, you attract what you put out, and, the way that you think of yourself, you're basically going to find other people that are going to sort of confirm those thoughts. So I was sort of in this place of, not really liking where I was at and dealing with emotions that I didn't really understand, wanting attention from anyone who would give it, or looking for love in areas, that I could. And when I was in high school, I got into a pretty unhealthy relationship. And I think that it was the first time that I ever really heard that I wasn't good enough, or had somebody tell me that I wasn't good enough. And it was one of those sort of like, it was one of my first relationships, emotionally and sexually. And it was one of those relationships that really kind of shook me, and that I didn't understand, why I wasn't good enough. I didn't understand why this person didn't accept me. And it was the first time that I felt like I had to sort of change or be somebody different. Make somebody else love me.
Yeah.
And a lot of sort of what aspired after that really came from that. So I was sort of trying to navigate this relationship, trying to be somebody that I thought he wanted me to be, and really struggling, not really knowing. I don't know. As a young woman, you're like, anyone in high school, they're trying to figure out who the heck they are. And when you have somebody tell you,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as teenagers, we just want to be accepted. And when you've got someone yapping in your ear that you're not good enough, that just compounds everything that you're already dealing with as an awkward teenager, right?
Yeah, it was sort of, and even just the way that he commented on my physical body, I think is something that, having someone tell you that you're overweight, or tell you that your hair color sucks, or skin sucks, all of those physical aspects that you don't have control over, and having somebody talk about those things. So that, that sort of, I obviously carried. And then in the middle of sort of trying to navigate that relationship, I was raped when I was 16.
Oh my gosh.
So it wasn't something that I could ever talk about for years. And even just being able to say that out loud is something that, took me a long time to be able to do. I'm
sure.
But I think, when that happens at such a young age, you kind of learn that, your voice doesn't matter. Well, you feel that way anyway, that your voice doesn't matter. You feel like, the word no doesn't matter. You feel like your body isn't really your own. And just your whole view of relationships and sex, and my view of men, all of it was sort of shaken. And what I thought I believed was broken of myself and of all those other things. And when I was sort of already feeling insecure around those things, that's, broke me in ways that I couldn't really ever describe. And that sort of transpired into, you mentioned that I had an eating disorder, and I did for a while. And I think, sometimes eating disorders don't really have anything to actually do with food. But it really does have to do with, wanting to control something when you feel like you have control over anything. So I did struggle with an eating disorder for quite a few years. And it was something that I kept secret from my family and from friends. And
so nobody knew about that?
No. And
how did you keep that hidden?
It's weird to reflect back on, but just to kind of get sort of like super raw. But I think it started out as, just not wanting to eat. Eventually, when I would have to eat, I'm just like, I'm just going to throw it up, because then it doesn't count. And I think that I used to hide. I remember throwing up in the shower so that the water would be on and they wouldn't have to. There was a bathroom downstairs. I used to sneak down into the bathroom and turn the tap on so they wouldn't hear me. And it was sort of, it's this deep, dark secret that grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And you have so much shame and embarrassment around it that I think you get to a point where you're like, you're just sort of like running and you feel numb and you don't really know what's going on. You can't make sense of it, but it almost does become an addiction as well.
That's horrible for a young girl to have to deal with all of that and keep it hidden too from your family and your friends. That's horrible.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. That's wow.
I'm really close I played sports really, at a pretty high level, like, through high school. And I'm still close with my coach that I had then. And him and I have had conversations now. And, I had shared some of these things with him and he's like, what? Like, how did you even function in school or on the basketball court or, playing sports? And I'm just, I think now to what I know about nutrition and sleep and all these things, and I'm like, I really have no idea how I functioned.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like I could thrive academically and athletically, and I was doing really well. And it's sort of this thing that it was just, this sort of hidden part of my life that I didn't share with anybody for quite some time.
How did it come about that you ended up sharing, and who did you share with? Like, was it your coach that you shared this with first, or family? Like, how did that all come about? How did you finally come out about all of that had been going on and that you've been dealing with?
So I think it was actually my brother. I have a twin brother.
Okay.
And he, I think one day or after a while, he had noticed, after supper time or after whatever, I was going down to the bathroom quite a bit. I think he had followed me down and he heard that I was throwing up. And he called me out on it.
Yeah.
My mom, and I was so embarrassed and so hurt, and I just remember being like, it's nothing, there's nothing going on, like I just didn't feel well, it's fine, and I hid it.
Yeah.
And this was sort of going into college, so this kind of lasted for years. And then when I was in college and I stopped playing sports, I had this like crazy fear of, well, I'm not going to be active anymore, what am I going to do? And I think a lot of time with eating disorders, it can be masked by other things. And I used fitness. I basically just sort of like replaced the behavior with training, which is also really common. So I think, there was a while there where I maybe wasn't throwing up, but I probably wasn't eating well, or, whole life still evolved around food and what I was eating and when I was eating and how I was eating and who was watching me eat. And, social events were a great cause of anxiety. But because I was strength training, that's sort of like, it wasn't a healthy way to combat fitness because it was from a place of self-hate.
Right.
I wanted to change my body and I hated all these things about me. So I'm going to try to, work my ass off to try to find this, imaginary body that doesn't exist that somehow I'll love. And it didn't happen and it would never happen. So it actually wasn't until I think I was pregnant that I fully came to a place of, okay, I need to do work on this. Because as soon as I found out I was pregnant, it was like, I didn't mention this, but I was addicted to like, diet pills, fat loss, all these quick fixes of things that you think are going to make a difference that don't.
Yeah.
And so obviously when I was pregnant, I'm like, well, I can't do this anymore. I can't take these things anymore. I have to eat because it isn't about me anymore. And
so would you say that your pregnancy was your light bulb moment then, I guess?
Absolutely.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
Forever grateful for my daughter for that. I've been like, so when I think of, pregnancy and postpartum, not every person or every woman deals with body images or, eating disorders to that extent. But when I think of the fears that I had when I found out I was pregnant, and I think of the loss of control that I had over my body when all I wanted was control.
Yeah.
The fact that I knew that my body was going to get bigger and I couldn't do anything about it, that the scale was going to go up and I couldn't do anything about it. My workouts wouldn't be as intense as I wanted them to be. And I had to really stop and say, it isn't about the physical body. Like, my mindset needs to be changed. And I started to do work, and I started to journal. I started to, find all these sort of self-love activities.
Yeah.
That could help me really figure out where it was coming from. And it did stem back to losing my brother, that relationship, being all of those things. And I had to sort through that in order to be healthy for myself and for her.
Amazing. That's, incredible, incredibly inspiring that you were able to do that for yourself, for your daughter. I mean, of course, it's for yourself first and foremost, but of course, equally as important for your daughter because you were pregnant at the time. But to be able to be that self-aware and have that self-realization that I have to do this now. I don't have a choice, and that's it. I guess it's almost like a fight or flight instinct that you've got to do it, and there's no alternative. It just has to be done. I have to do this self-work. I have to dig back deep into all the shit that I've gone through that's happened. And I mean, that's incredibly admirable and incredibly inspirational that you were able to do that.
Thank you.
Amazing. Wow.
When you talked about postpartum trauma as well, the fact that I was able to do that work during my pregnancy, and why I'm so, such an advocate for postpartum women.
Yeah.
The change that people go through in their postpartum journey, with or without trauma, no matter what your sort of pregnancy and what your birth looked like, is so complex. And I sort of did that work during my pregnancy to be in a good place for when she was here.
Right.
And, even though that pregnancy was only 9 months, it was a freaking hard pregnancy. But when I was about 3 months old, so I was engaged and planning my wedding and in a super, sort of living in bliss, and felt like I had everything that I wanted.
Yeah.
And this is sort of earlier on when you asked sort of where my business came from and where everything started. When she was 3 months old, I had found out that my fiance had been cheating on me. And sort of had this whole other life that I knew nothing about.
Wow.
And when you talk about, a turning point or doing something different or, everything changed then because I knew that I had the power. I could be in control of what was happening. As if that happened before I did any of that work, not that I'm done that work, but if any of that happened before, it would have been, I think it would have really, really, really taken me down that path.
Yeah.
And the thing about life is it's going to continue to throw those lessons at you until you fully learn. And this was another lesson. So it was sort of one of those things where okay, I thought I did the work, but clearly I didn't. Here's another thing that I'm going to throw at you. Thank you, universe. You need to figure this out. So I actually started my business. I started my postpartum classes basically right after finding that out, because I knew that I needed to be independent and I needed to leave and that I needed a plan. And, so I found out, I think she was 3 months old, and I left officially when she was 9 months old. And within that 6-month period, I started those classes. I started one-on-one training. I had a full schedule. And it was amazing because as my sort of relationship world was crumbling, my professional world was growing. And I had people reaching out to me. I had somebody from a nonprofit organization reach out about Stroller Fit. And they said, I've seen your post online, you should teach this class. And since then I've taken that and ran with that. At the gym that I was working out of, I had the opportunity to work for a Girl Strong program, which was empowering young women through fitness. And I ran self-esteem workshops. And it's sort of like, the world and the universe and was giving me all of these things to help me navigate everything else as it was happening, and giving me the confidence to say, I am this person. And within that 6 months, I was able to sort of find that person that had been pushed down and pushed down and pushed down, and be able to say, I am more than this. And I don't have to stay in situations that don't serve me anymore.
What an amazing journey. That's incredible. Incredible. You should be very proud of yourself for having navigated through all that and come out the other side with such a positive outlook and positive attitude. I'm sure it wasn't always that way, but pretty incredible journey.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's go down. What's that?
Feels good to say all that.
I'm sure it does. Let's go down not so serious path. What's your favorite sound or noise?
Oh, I'm gonna say the sound of the waves.
Sound of the waves.
Waves.
Okay.
Calming. Powerful.
Yeah. What is your favorite word?
I'm going to be really cheesy and say it's my daughter's name, Danny.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. What is your favorite curse word?
My favorite curse word. That means I can swear on here?
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to have to say it's probably fuck yeah as one word.
All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, how weird would you say you are?
I give myself a hard 10.
That was easy.
I'm pretty weird.
All right. What is your favorite quote?
Favorite quote? I have a quote on my business cards, actually.
Okay.
It says, "You're only confined by the walls you create."
I love that. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. What does the word empowerment mean to you?
It's pretty deeply rooted. I think of taking back my own life, making choices and behaviors that are in line with who I really am. I think of, accepting what has been and what is, and sort of working every day to be the best that I possibly can. And accepting my journey, but knowing that it's not over.
Awesome. What is the best advice you've ever received?
I think probably that you should be your own competition. I think that there will always be people that are going to know more than you, and there's always going to be people that are going to know less than you. But when you're working for yourself and you're sort of, you need to be able to always try to beat wherever you were a year ago, myself, knowing that I'm growing every day, rather than looking around and seeing where everybody else is at, because that doesn't really get you anywhere.
You're right. I find that so many people get caught up in the competition, and like you said, the only competition you should have is yourself, knowing that, again, as we spoke about earlier, that you can look back and see that you've improved and you're progressing. That's the only competition. That's the way I look at it too. That's my only competition is me. Yes, for me personally, there's lots of photographers out there in the world running a business, but I don't pay any mind to any of that. It's just, I am my competition. As long as I can see that I'm getting better and I'm growing as a person, as a business, as a photographer, as an artist, as all of that. That's what I live by too.
Oh, I love that.
How do you define success? What does that word mean to you?
I think if I can fall asleep at night and feel at peace in my heart and feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be and that I'm doing what I should be doing, and I feel, fulfilled, and I feel like I'm doing the best that I can.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's me.
What is the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice, probably what we talked about, just being, our own competition, sort of, yeah, okay. Your own competition.
If you could sit and have a 1-hour conversation with anyone in the world, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Definitely my brother that passed away.
Right.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And yeah, definitely my brother.
And finally, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that one piece of advice be?
This always makes me think of my daughter and things that I would tell her as well. And I think just to be free, and that if you're in situations or around people or in jobs or, anything that you're doing, if you don't feel free, that door should probably be closed and there's probably another open one waiting.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much today for being a guest, Melissa. It was an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and appreciate you sharing your very, very personal story and your insights and your thoughts and opinions around body positivity and all of that stuff, and your knowledge with coaching. I really appreciate you being a guest here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Loved it.
Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of the Empowerography Podcast. My guest today has been Melissa White, certified personal trainer, postnatal fitness coach, based out of Orillia, Ontario. Thank you again, Melissa, today for being a guest and sharing your very, very personal story with us. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much for having me.
Talk soon.